And let's face it, there's been a lot of Batman movies. Some of them not so good.
Never leave the cave without him.
Yet even though no one was necessarily begging for a new Batman, Matt Reeves delivered something new and satisfying. We're going to take Matt Reeves' Batman and break it down its structure. The best way to understand 3-act structure is to study a movie and break it down. The more movies you study, the better. Sure, you can read one of the million screenwriting books. I'd recommend Sid Field's Screenplay, the one that started it all. But the best way to master story structure is to read scripts and watch movies and see if you can break down the plot points as you go. And sure, story structure isn't everything, but it's a lot more than you think. Along with the plot, the story structure holds within it the arc of the character as well as the theme. As we break down the structure, you'll see how the story structure was part of what made the film so unique and memorable. First things first, we start with the very first thing we see, the opening image. The opening image of a film can be a powerful statement that may hint at the arc of the film. Opening images aren't chosen lightly. For a great look at the opening image, check out the series' First and Final Frames by editor Jacob Swinney. The opening image of the Batman is from the Riddler's point of view, settling on a little boy playing, dressed up like a ninja. The little boy evokes the broken Bruce Wayne, playing dress-up as a superhero, hinting at how the story will force him to grow up. Act 1. Act 1, we see the protagonist living their everyday life, no matter how weird that life is. It is ordinary for them. Batman's ordinary world is going out and beating up criminals in the name of saving Gotham City. Here we're introduced to Bruce Wayne. This is not the Bruce Wayne we're used to. He's sadder, maybe chronically depressed, angry, writing dark Kurt Cobain lyrics in his diary. This Bruce Wayne needs a change, and that change will be brought by the story. In 3-act structure, the character begins in the normal world and something knocks their world off balance. This is the inciting incident. It is a big event which will eventually push them to go on a journey to bring order back to the universe. The inciting incident at 12 minutes in, the Batman is called to investigate the Riddler's first murder. Now the Batman is called to take on a journey that will transform him. This is what Act 1 is about. Our character making the decision to take on a life-altering journey. But they don't rush into the journey. This is hard for them. Often they refuse. In the monomyth, otherwise known as the hero's journey, we call this the refusal of the call. The refusal of the call defines the stakes of the story. If the hero is afraid of the journey, then so are we. We are more invested. We want to watch a hero that is ill-prepared for the journey at hand. In the Batman, Alfred brings the refusal.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing.
I don't care about that.
Batman doesn't refuse so much as he's pushed away, scared off of the journey. Often the character refuses because reluctant heroes are more complex and easy to relate to. However, the refusal is short-lived. Eventually, they have to take on the journey or there is no movie. Something will come along that forces them to go on the journey, and this is called Plot Point 1, aka the lock-in. Plot Point 1 is an unforeseen event which will add a complication for the hero that sends them into a world they're unprepared for. Plot Point 1, when Batman connects with a Catwoman, he is forced to work with the kind of person he would normally terrorize. She's a criminal, a cat burglar. Now the hero's goal has been established. The goal: team up with the Catwoman and figure out the connection between the criminal underworld and the Riddler's messages. The Batman takes steps to attempt to get what they want. And here in the first few obstacles, we're getting the promise of the premise. This is what we came to see. Batman as detective, following the clues to uncover the Riddler's plan. In the pinch, which in the Sid Field story structure is a twist or plot reversal, the DA is blown up, almost killing the Batman and dropping him off in the middle of an angry group of cops that all want him gone. When Gordon asks him to punch him, Batman's job has been made harder as the police are after him now. The Batman faces progressively more and more difficult challenges until we reach the midpoint, which will divide the script into 2 parts. 3-act structure is somewhat a misnomer. Most 3-act structures, screenplays, are actually 4 acts or more, with Act 2 bisected by a big old plot point that will change the nature of the story. This is the midpoint. On the midpoint, the Batman discovers his own family's part in the corrupt history of Gotham. His father had a man murdered to protect his family. Bruce's vision of his family is shattered. His father was embedded in the criminal world, and he didn't know it. The entire time he is judging and beating on these criminals, his own family is part of the problem. In story structure, the midpoint reveal comes with a devastating revelation for the protagonist. It is a truth that they cannot face. You can read more about this in the book Into the Woods by John York. York calls his book Into the Woods because the protagonist enters into the woods where they are uncomfortable and eventually reaches a truth. But they are not ready to face it yet. They'll carry this truth with them until the end of Act 2, Into the Woods and back. The midpoint raises the stakes and ups the ante for the hero, which is why it really makes all 3 act structures actually 4 acts. Or 5 or 7, whatever you want. Now Bruce Wayne will pursue his new goal. Find out his family's part in the corruption of Gotham. The second pinch point will up the stakes in Act 2 even more. Selina reveals Falcone was her father and she decides to kill him. The Batman must stop her. He saves her and brings the Don to justice, but it is all for nothing. The Riddler kills Falcone with a sniper rifle, sending us screaming into Act 3. After reaching the all is lost moment, Falcone is dead, and the Batman must find the truth. The Riddler has given himself up, and it is revealed it was all part of his plan. The bombs go off and Gotham is flooded, but worst of all, Batman realizes that he had a hand in all this, that he inspired it. In the book Story by Robert McKee, McKee talks about a story principle called the negation of the negation. The negation of the negation is the idea that in order to push the audience to the limits of feeling, you must take the audience to the end of the line. You must be doubly negative when reaching the character's lowest moment. This is a good example of the negation. Batman has not only failed to save Gotham, that would be negative, and a lesser filmmaker might stop there. Batman is responsible for causing the all is lost moment. That is doubly negative. The all is lost moment must bring the protagonist to rock bottom. Only by reaching rock bottom can a person reach the revelation they need to change. Now we have the break into Act 3. Act 3 asks a new question. Having failed the goal established by Act 2, can our hero transform themselves and become the person they need to be in order to change the story? There are several elements in Act 3, a change moment, a resolution, a denouement or denouement, or a falling action, and finally, a closing image. The character must make a decision here. This decision will show whether or not the character has learned the lesson the story exists to show them. In this very crucial moment, the film will reveal its theme. They will either make the right decision and it will be an upending, or they will make the wrong choice and double down on their bad behavior, and more than likely they will be punished for it. This is the resolution, a reward or punishment for the character's transformation or lack thereof. Batman rushes to the building where he knows the Riddler's fans will be waiting to murder the citizens of Gotham. It is the decision he makes in this crucial moment that shows us how he has been transformed by the story. Fighting against the Riddler's men, he hears one of them say, "I'm vengeance," and realizes the lie that he has believed. He must atone for this moment. With the electric wires hanging over the water, he leaps and cuts the wire, electrocuting himself, risking death. It is a sacrifice moment, but more importantly, a symbol of his transformation from vengeant warrior into Gotham's protector and savior. In the last moments, we see him driving away, watching Catwoman run in the rearview mirror. In the last few moments, we see him driving away, watching Catwoman ride away in the rearview mirror. Juxtaposed with the opening image, the boy version of him playing ninja in his suit, he is now capable of sacrifice. From opening to closing image, the images side by side show the transformation of the character. Story structure is certainly only part of the game. Writers have to understand writing dialogue, action, character, developing theme, and endless other subjects. However, critics of this obsession with story structure miss how significant the story construction is. As we'll see, the story contains the theme, It is expressed not in words, but in plot points. The events in the story that symbolize the transformation of the character. Events which move the story forward and reveal character through action. In story, Robert McKee introduces the controlling idea as something more specific than a theme. It is the statement the movie makes. The controlling idea is not something that the audience should see on first viewing, but rather something that is revealed through multiple viewings. That's why it is always easiest to understand what the controlling idea is by looking at the film backwards. Let's rewind and see how the seeds of theme are planted within the story structure. In the end of the film, Batman has renounced vengeance and understands he must become a beacon of hope. He demonstrates this by his attempted sacrifice. Rewind a bit. On the all is lost moment, he realizes his lust for vengeance created the Riddler. We go back further. On the midpoint revelation, Batman realizes his family caused the death of a journalist, that his father was in on the crime. This is the revelation he cannot face. We go back further to the break into Act 2. Batman is put in the place where he is uncomfortable. He must work with a criminal and begins to understand the circumstances that led her to become who she is. Go back even further, and there's something on the outlines we skimmed over. In the first 10 minutes, there is a hint that the character is off balance. It is a hint at the lie that they must overcome before it dooms them. This is always a hidden moment. It's within the first 20 minutes of a movie. There will be some moment that shows us there's something wrong with them. It's something that won't be obvious on first viewing. Only backwards can we see it. It is a hint at the lie the character must overcome to be transformed before it dooms them. Batman, after rescuing a man from a group of violent gang members, reaches out to the man he rescued only to hear him reply,
Please don't hurt me.
Look at the way this moment reflects the ending. Batman is transformed from vengeance into hope. The controlling idea is stated in the final monologue.
I'm starting to see now. I have had an effect here. But not the one I intended.
However, it didn't need to be. The film expresses the idea through its structure. We get it. Even if we don't know we get it, we feel it. That is how 3-act structure works. Note, 3-act structure is the most common way to structure a movie, but it's not the only way. There's 5-act structure and hero's journey and heroine's journeys, save the cat beat sheets, and a lot. Writers should explore the various different ways and come up with new ones, but in order to do that, it helps to know what has been done in the past. You can download copies of the screenplay outline as well as other screenwriting resources and links in the description. If you like this and found it useful, let me know and I'll make more of these. Feel free to suggest other movies to break down.